Alright, it's Friday, June 12th. Let's talk PlayStation. Okay, so this is Crunch Week, a few days before E3, so we got a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get right to it. Last week we were talking about Drive Club, I believe, and how the PS Plus version is going to be ready very soon. Well, the developers commented again on that, saying that they're working on the final development process, blah, 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 of Drive Club PS Plus Edition. So it's finally coming very, very soon. Moving on, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, that PlayStation 4, that super special red-looking PS4 that we all saw a while back. We now have a date for it in Europe. September 1st, you'll be able to get your hands on this guy. Looks really great. No word yet on North America or Australia, which is kind of a bummer, but I'm pretty sure we'll probably see it come to those other territories, at least North America, at least. And it's always cool to see, systems like these, because most of the special edition PS4s we've been seeing nowadays is just the faceplates being replaced rather than the actual rest of the unit. So, because the faceplate of the PS4 is easy to take off, so having a special faceplate is not that special. I just got a text message. So you see what I'm saying. Alright, moving on. PlayStation 4 has been announced as the winner of May NPD. This is, of course, relevant because in April, Xbox One actually finally took NPD for that month. So Sony's back in the lead, taking over May, and we'll probably, I don't know, they'll more than likely take June, July, and going into the holidays. Who knows? I mean, I had the wrong prediction of saying that I feel like Xbox One's going to possibly overtake PlayStation 4 in North America this year. Seems like that's definitely not the case, and it probably won't be for the coming months if Sony keeps their momentum up, which they probably will going into E3. This next news story is probably irrelevant to, nobody watching this, maybe one or two people, I don't know, I highly doubt this, but Samsung TVs now support PlayStation Now. So for a while we were talking about PlayStation Now support going across all different platforms, first PS4, moving on to Vita, PS3, Sony TVs, now Samsung TV. So this will be one of the first times where you can really play a PlayStation game outside of PlayStation hardware. So if you have a Samsung Smart TV that's compatible, you can look on PlayStation Facts to see if your TV is compatible, but all you need is a DualShock 4 and PlayStation Now subscription, or I believe just a subscription. I don't know if you have access to actually the catalog of games to rent per title, but either way, that is now actually happening. Now it's time to move on to some pretty juicy E3 stuff. So Guerrilla Games, of course, the famous Sony developer, well known for making the Killzone games, has just recently made a Twitter account for Guerrilla Games. They do have Twitter accounts for, I believe, Killzone, but they have made a Twitter account for just Guerrilla Games themselves, which is, usually it's like, okay, whatever, but it's a few days before E3. Why are they making a Twitter account just before E3 for just Guerrilla Games themselves? They might likely be on stage. They might likely be able to show their next game. We all know that their next game has been rumored to be called Horizon, featuring a female protagonist, featuring robotic dinosaurs. It's going to be an RPG. That's the rumor right now. We don't know if that's actually going to happen, but hey, the fact that they made a Twitter a few days beforehand kind of makes it be a little squinty-eyed, what are you guys doing over there? Hopefully we'll find out soon. Speaking of Twitter, just a few days ago, there were a couple of interesting tweets regarding the whole Naughty Dog Uncharted thing going on. So if you actually are in the LA area right now, you're actually at the convention center, and you can see the big banner for Uncharted 4 plastered right up on top of the building. Really awesome. Neil Druckmann, the creative director of Naughty Dog, tweeted that it's going to be Nathan Drake's last E3, that he's going to be having a good final last E3. What does that mean? Blah, blah, blah. For a while now, we've all been, I at least have told you guys, and I think many of you guys also agree with me, is that we feel like Uncharted 4 is probably going to be the last Uncharted game. Now, of course, I don't think that's very set in stone. A lot of developers, no matter how upfront they are about what they're doing, they always say oh, never say never. They could possibly go back to a game or whatever. But it seems pretty clear right now that Naughty Dog is going to be doing Uncharted 4 and then probably not doing Uncharted games for a while, or not going back to them at all. We don't necessarily know, but of course the game's called Uncharted 4: Thief's End. So, yeah, we all kind of see where this is possibly going. Who knows how Uncharted 4 will end, but I guess it'll be Drake's last E3. So one interesting news story that came out this past week is that the developer behind the Order 1886, Ready at Dawn, has been doing a little bit of restructuring lately. So they got a new CEO, Paul Sams, who I believe is from Blizzard, came over to take on the new CEO role at Ready at Dawn, and they're going to try and be independent. So basically they don't want to they want to retain ownership of all the games that they start to create. So this basically means that yes, they will not be making PlayStation 4 exclusives. They will be moving on to actually developing for Xbox One, PC, and possibly other systems. They said unannounced platforms, which could mean Wii U or mobile. Who knows, right? But they want to be independent. They want to retain the ownership of their games, and that's completely fair. A lot of developers do this. This is exactly what Insomniac did when they moved away from Sony. They don't want to give the ownership of their games to Sony. Sony owned Ratchet and Clank. Sony owns Resistance. Sony owns the Order 1886. And Ready at Dawn expressed their kind of discomfort with that, saying that, you know, we kind of wish we didn't give them the ownership of the Order 1886. We wish we would have retained the rights to that IP. So they want to go independent. Now, of course, some people are misconstruing this and thinking that Sony owned Ready at Dawn. Sony does not own Ready at Dawn. In that situation, that's a second-party developer. That is where Sony's funding the game, but they don't actually own the developer in question. So they are allowed to go independent if they want to, and that's exactly what they are doing. So more than likely, Ready at Dawn will be developing games on all platforms. And they went into a little bit of detail about, you know, the engines they created and stuff, and how they can apply what they've done with the Order 1886 and that engine to other platforms. So what they've accomplished with PS4, they can do on Xbox One and PC and everything. That's totally true, because whether you like the Order or not, it's a gorgeous looking game. It's absolutely stunning, and the developer is definitely capable of doing interesting things. Now, what's funny is that when Ready at Dawn back in the old days, they did the PSP games. They did Daxter, they did the God of War games, and back then they were doing, again, Sony games, but they were to a point where they said, oh, we're giving away our PSP dev kits, we're moving away from Sony, we want to go to console development, we want to go to independent development, and then they ended up making another God of War game. So that's not me saying that they're going to go back to Sony or whatever, but they have said, well, you know, we're going to do this, and then they don't do it. Okay, so moving on to a release date announcement that a lot of people seem to forget that this game actually exists. It kind of goes under the radar for a lot of people, but that's because we don't know a whole lot about it, which is Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. This is a PlayStation 4 exclusive by the Chinese Room developer of Amnesia, the Amnesia Bay for Pigs, or whatever the fuck it was called, and Dear Esther. They're making a PS4 exclusive, a really interesting looking game. We actually know when it's coming out now, which is August 11th. So we can finally expect that game then, which, like I said, we don't really know a whole lot about it, but really, you know, they have a good pedigree the developer has, so I'm definitely interested to see what the hell this game actually is. Okay, time to talk about The Last Guardian. Yes, it seems like this happens every time E3 comes up, if it's going to be there or not. The new rumor is that it will be there this year, and actually another interesting detail is that Mark Cerny, the architect behind PlayStation 4 and PlayStation Vita, is helping the game actually move along with development. So this actually comes from Just Add Water Development's boss, who's Stuart Gilray, I think his name is. He is saying that Mark Cerny jumped onto the team to help them move forward with completion of the game, because of course it's been delayed like 18 billion times, and we haven't seen it in a very long time. Sony's been telling us a number of things, like we're still working on it, we're restructuring the team, we've restructured development entirely, which kind of leads us to believe that the game is for PS4 now, because it was announced for PS3 how many years ago. So there's not really a whole lot we can say on this other than to just wait and see if it actually does show up at E3. But every E3 we wait for it to show up, and it never actually does. But you know, and I'm not the kind of person to say, oh, we'll see it at this E3, we'll see it at this E3. I'm just gonna shut up and wait. You know, it will come up at some point. I think Sony knows that. They've put how much money into this thing. They got to finish it eventually. They want to finish it eventually. They know people want it, and they know people will pay for this game, no matter how it seems to turn out to be. So I want to finally see it. If it'll be this E3, I hope so. If not, I'm okay with it, and I can still wait, because at this point I've waited how long already. Our next news story isn't so much of a news story as it is just like, hey, you have to see this. So Ratchet and Clank PlayStation 4 got a new trailer and some new gameplay coming out, of course, because E3 is right around the corner. So we're getting some detailed look at this game finally, and it looks unbelievable. Holy crap. So please tell me you've seen this already. Go look it up yourself on another video, an extended playthrough. A lot of publishers a lot of journalists and publications are getting a good look at the game, and getting some detailed look at the gameplay, and I'm sure we'll see more of it out of E3, but if you can just look at it, my god, this game looks absolutely gorgeous. New weapons, classic weapons from, beyond Ratchet and Clank 1 is going into this game, so of course this game is largely based around Ratchet and Clank 1 with added areas and of course overall expansion and complete reimagining of the entire first game. So and they're kind of going with a whole hook now, which is the game based on the movie based on the game. Kind of a mind twister, but makes sense because they do want this thing to coincide with the movie release. And yeah, it's just good. Like, I want them to do that. I want them to tie this in with the movie. I want them to release the movie theatrically. I want this to be a big thing. I want Ratchet and Clank to be a big deal. And I'm really excited because, and I'm not even a huge Ratchet fan, but I love platformers. We all know that because I love a Jak and Daxter and like Sly Cooper and everything. But I want a modern platformer. And it was great that like that Kickstarter for Yooka-Laylee was so successful. I want to see a modern platformer finally come and be, profitable and well, and maybe show other developers like, hey, platformers definitely still have a place in the industry. And when you look at it on PlayStation 4, like, it just looks so good. You really are playing a Disney or Pixar movie. It looks incredible. And I remember back when the PS3 Ratchets came out, I was like, oh my god, this looks like a Pixar movie. It's like, how many times can I say that and it be more true than it was before? But it's like, that's the case here. It looks even better than the PlayStation 3 versions of the game. And that's what Insomniac said they wanted to do. They basically wanted to nail CG movie visuals. And I think they've absolutely done that. So, oh my god, I cannot wait for this game now. One little added detail that, of course, bugs the shit out of people because, I don't know, they're losers, is that the game does run 30 frames per second. I, of course, would, much like every other person in the world, want it to be 60 frames per second, but I think one thing is, a long time ago, Insomniac posted a blog, actually, about 30 frames per second versus 60, saying, like, hey, 30 totally works. It's still a frame rate that you can play at. It's not unplayable by any stretch of the imagination. Insomniac traditionally always did 60 frames per second games with Ratchet and Clank, so everyone was led to believe that this new Ratchet was going to be 60. But this blog post that Insomniac did a few years ago went into, like, how consumers don't understand that concept, and frame rate was never properly correlated to higher sales or everything like that. And you can agree with that or not. It's totally, that's your discretion because that's what Insomniac posted. But I'm just letting you know that because of that blog post, it's very obvious that Insomniac is a true believer of saying, hey, 30's fine, and we're going to do 30, and that's why our future games are going to be 30. So, and that's, again, that's fine with me. 30's totally playable. And the game looks so good. Oh, and the game is actually surprisingly going to be slightly budget priced, coming out at $40. Some cynical people look at this as like, oh, why are you cutting $20 worth of content out of the game? Why is it not worth a $60 game? Which is absolutely baffling to me that people actually complain about this stuff. $60 game comes out, everyone bitches because it's $60. $40 game comes out, people bitch that, oh, hey, why is it 40? Is it not worth 60? It's like people want to pay $60, but at the same time, if it's not slightly worth that, they just freak out, and everyone seems to always forget that you never have to buy a game when it actually comes out at $60, and you can just wait for a price drop. One of my pet peeves with gamers nowadays is just, ugh. All right, for our final news story, a lot of retailers are listing, a few retailers are listing Project Morpheus up, actually, and we're getting some, prices. First of all, I mean, one retailer listed it for like 400 British pounds or euros, I believe. I don't know. I'm not even keeping track with rich retailers. I believe an Australian retailer posted it up too for like $450 or something. But Australians, the conversion rate and everything's a lot different there. Obviously, the ballpark here is like this thing's definitely going to be like over $300 in correlation with your, country or whatever. Like more than 300, like probably close to like 400, 450. Who knows? But the real thing about this news story is that even though it's a rumor, it's going into the main topic that I want to get to, which is, of course, E3 is coming up, right? So this is the last Let's Talk PlayStation until the E3 shows hit, until Sony has their conference and everything. So, and even as I record this right now, more details are probably going to leak about E3. Maybe another huge leak will come out before I even get to uploading this. So this is the last you'll be hearing me talk until we actually get to talk about Sony's E3. And what is going to happen is that Sony's going to have their conference. They're likely going to talk a lot about Morpheus, because Morpheus is going to be coming out the first half of 2016 guaranteed. Of course, Oculus just yesterday had a big thing showing off their consumer version. So Sony's got to get ready in gear here, and you better believe that they're going to be showing Morpheus and discussing Morpheus and probably having a final product name for Morpheus, probably having a price announcement for Morpheus so we don't have to speculate. Definitely showing off some games, I would hope so. They have to start convincing people why they actually have to buy this thing by 2016 when it's 2015 right now. So now I'm not really going to do like E3 predictions, I guess. I mean, my rough predictions is that Sony's going to showcase indies like they always do. They're going to have a section of third-party stuff. They're going to have exclusive third-party stuff with certain publishers. I don't know. They always are a big fan with Ubisoft and everything. Again, Last Guardian, who knows at all with that. I expect Guerrilla to be there and show off their new game finally. Who knows, maybe Media Molecule will be there, unless they've already confirmed that they're not going to be there. I want to see something from Sony's developers, and we'll likely see that. I don't know, they'll probably talk about, you know, just their typical stuff, really. What I can't predict is like the surprises. Now, I hope there is surprises, because sometimes, a lot of times, E3 does not have surprises, and that's what really upsets people. The one thing you might want to look out for is the other people that are going to be at E3. You know, Square Enix is going to be there. Who knows what they have to show. Bethesda, of course, we kind of expect what they're going to be showing, but they can show us some really cool stuff. You know, Microsoft's getting pretty aggressive now. They'll have some cool stuff. Nintendo, of course, is going to do all their direct stuff. And I really want to see what they've got going on. E3 is always a great time, really. Whether you expect, just don't expect Jesus from E3, and you will be pleasantly surprised with what E3 has, which is a lot of cool, interesting games, more than likely. It just seems like every time E3 happens, people get super bummed out because they weren't given, I don't know, like a golden duck served on a silver platter or something. I don't know if that's what people want, but that seems like that's what people expect. Anyway, those are just some of the news stories I want to talk about with you all this week. As I mentioned, this is the last LTPS until we have Sony's conference. If you're not following me on Twitter, I do like to live tweet during Sony's conference for all my live reactions and stuff, and right after the conference starts, I will start busting out my camera equipment, and I'll get a video on that thing, not only doing a complete cover of the event, but also my actual impressions of the event and what I thought of it and everything. And you can expect more stuff to pour out of E3. E3 is not just about the conferences. There's also a lot of hands-on impressions and things like that, and small little tidbits that come out that weren't covered up in the press conference. You know, there's a lot of publications that get interviews and stuff, so a lot of details will be pouring out of this event, so definitely stay tuned on the channel for all that stuff. Sony's conference is Monday, so that it will be when the video will go out, probably later in the day after Sony's conference, because of course it takes a while to record, edit, and then upload to the internet, but definitely stay tuned for that, and follow me on Twitter if you want to see that. This week's episode of Ryan on Gaming was about PlayStation Vita. Why doesn't Sony actually market that thing? And why don't they market it in small countries? Well, here's why they don't market it, period. Somebody asked me, hey, why don't they market it in smaller countries? I'll tell you why they don't market it at all. And stay tuned for next week's episode. Keep submitting topics. Hope you all enjoyed the PS2 memories video. Everyone, I know a few of you guys have been asking me to do that video for like a very long time now, so finally got that one out. And I think Monday also, well, Monday is Sony's conference. I don't know if I'll upload a video game teacher, but you can expect a new one of those soon too. So if you like the Linger in Shadows one, I'm definitely going to be doing more of those now, because I'm doing more stuff for the channel, which is cool, right? So yeah. Anyway, that concludes this week's episode of Let's Talk PlayStation. I'm Ryan Badecki. Thank you all so much for talking with me. I'll see you guys next Friday.